Hey guys, Buildzoid here, and today we're going to be doing another PC part picker video. Today, just 2x8 memory kits that I think are worth purchasing, like right now. We're going for 2x8 specifically because you can obviously run, 2x8 for 16 gigs of memory, and then if you want more capacity, you can put two 2x8 kits together to get 32 gigs of capacity. Now, there's a bit of a uh, concern when you put two 2x8 kits together, where with some brands, for certain speed bins, you're going to get all kinds of different memory chips. And so the compatibility between two sets of 2x8 can be very, very bad. But for a lot of other brands and for some, well, for certain speed bins and certain brands, this isn't really an issue. So, yeah, if you know what you're doing, buying two sets of 2x8 and putting them together for 32 gigs for a 4x8, total capacity, um, can work just fine. In fact, my daily system, the system currently recording this video, has two different kits of two different speeds from two different brands, and they're running just fine together because I know and so the kits that I'm using right now are like a 3600 CL17 from Kingston and a 3733 CL18 from Team Group. They're both based on Samsung B-Die memory chips. They both use an A2 PCB layout, and so yeah, I run them in a 4x8 configuration with a 2700X, and they're perfectly fine with that. They're currently at 3133 CL12, which not necessarily the highest performance configuration, but I really wanted to have CL12 memory in my daily just because it sounds ridiculous when you tell somebody that you have CL12 RAM, and then it's like, but it's not actually running at that high a clock speed. Like I'd probably be better off with something like 3333 CL14 or 3400 CL14, but it just doesn't sound as cool as when you have 30. Like it doesn't sound as cool as CL12. 3200 CL12 might be possible. Well, two of the sticks should be able to do 3200 CL12. The other two probably won't. But anyway, so you can totally take two by 8 kits and put them together. The thing is, you kind of have to know what you're doing. Now, since this video is a list of, memory kits that I've gone through and I know what they are, you can, for at least the near future, um, you shouldn't have any compatibility issues with memory kits that I point out in this video. And I say near future because, say for Crucial, they're eventually going to have some, like Micron is eventually going to put out a new memory chip revision, and that might actually not play well with the current Micron Rev E memory sticks that Crucial is making. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, but it could happen. Um, and yeah, but for now, you're not going to get those, like, for now, basically, like, these kits, all of them are going to be Micron Rev E, and so that's not really a concern. So let's get into it. Starting off with sort of the performance per dollar memory options, as far as I'm concerned. Crucial has this, in my opinion, completely on lockdown. You can get 3200 CL16 memory for $60. This stuff is based on Micron's Rev E memory chips, so this has a ton of overclocking headroom. And well, currently it's only $60 on Amazon, but yeah, this has a ton of overclocking headroom. Like, if you're buying memory kits that are cheaper than this, just go by the XMP speed and don't expect any overclocking. But, yeah, sticks like these, like, the thing is, I have a set of these sticks from Crucial, and I've had them all the way up to 5 gigahertz. I also have a bunch of 3000 CL15 sticks from Crucial, and I've also had those all the way up to 5 gigahertz. Admittedly, I didn't stabilize them at the speeds that high, but, somewhere between somewhere between the XMP speed and 5 gigahertz, you should be able to still run them fully stable. So there is a ton of overclocking headroom on these memory kits, and yeah, it's $60 for 3200 CL16. So, like, the thing is, at stock settings, it's going to perform about the same as any other 3200 CL16 kit, but the reason I'm pointing it out here is that it has a ton of overclocking headroom, and if you put two of them together for 32 gigs, you're not really going to be running into any compatibility issues. If you don't like the DIMMs in black, you can have them in red or white for, a slight price increase. Though, honestly, once you get to, like, here, I would say maybe go for the red 3600 CL16 kits. Because this is still Micron Rev E, but the XMP on these is significantly faster, as we can refer to the chart right here. So that's 3200 CL14 right there. That's 3600 CL16 right there. That is a pretty decent speed increase. So 3600 CL16 is significantly faster. It's not significantly more expensive. You have some RGB options for 3200 CL16, which, like, the thing is, it shouldn't be too hard to run almost the same settings as, like, these kits have on a kit like this, but with these, like, you don't have to do any, like, with these, it's guaranteed by Crucial that it's supposed to work at 3600 CL16, whereas with something like this, it isn't. Like, there should still be tons and tons of headroom, but, you know, like, I would probably go for the XMP, because I personally don't care that much about RGB on memory sticks. Anyway, you can also get the 3600 CL16s in black or white for, you know, $75. And, yeah, that's kind of it for the kits that I would consider from Crucial. Now, you can also get all kinds of RGB options, some of them being quite weird, like why would you have an RGB light bar on a red memory stick? Actually, maybe like a red-orange combo would look kind of neat. Anyway, so, yeah, you know, there's kind of your options. I don't really see much point in buying any, well, honestly, once you get to, like, well, I guess, well, you're paying for the RGB, and RGB gets really expensive for most brands, so that's the thing. But in terms of performance, I would basically, like, if you're not overclocking, I would basically stop, like, with these sticks right here. And then going past that doesn't really have, like, there's not too much benefit going past that. Or more like, yeah, you're not going to get a huge amount of benefit, but you're going to spend a lot more money. That's kind of the issue once you decide to go past 3600 CL16. So, the next memory kits worth pointing out, in my opinion, are G.Skill's, G.Skill has basically a bunch of very affordable Samsung B-Die right now, and when I say very affordable, it starts at $100. So it's significantly more expensive than the Crucial Ballistics kits. And it's also worth noting that, yeah, this is 3200 CL14, this is 3200 CL14, this is 3200 CL14. 3200 CL14 is just straight up slower than 3600 CL16. So you're really better off, like, if you're not going to overclock your 3200 CL14 G.Skill DIMMs, because the reason why you'd pick these up is because they use Samsung B-Die memory chips, they have a ton of overclocking headroom, they tighten timings significantly better than the Micron memory chips. So, like, the peak performance on these is higher than basically any other memory chip you can get. The only downside is they cost more, and at stock, these are actually really not very impressive in terms of performance. So if you don't overclock these, you are wasting your money. I guess this right here is a decent, like, this, well, the thing is, this is 161919, and for G.Skill, like, you should, with these sticks, you should be getting, like, Hynix CJR, Hynix DJR, which Hynix CJR and DJR are okay. And you should also be getting maybe some Samsung B-Die, but it would be pretty bad. And then Micron Rev E. So the problem I have with these is these can be all kinds of memory chips. So if you wanted to put two sets of these together, you might run into compatibility issues. But anyway, so yeah, there's a bunch of 3200 CL14 options from G.Skill that, you know, are really neat if you're into overclocking. This right here, I would avoid because it's $100 and it's 161919, which isn't guaranteed to be B-Die. And you're mostly paying for the RGB. Also, 161919 is just going to be slower than, you know, a 3600, not much slower. Like, it's going to be a very small difference, because the difference between even, like, 3600 CL16 and 3600 CL14, really not that much of a difference in terms of, you know, performance. So going from 3600 1618 to 3600 1619, also not going to be much of a difference. But the thing is, these are cheaper and they still have RGB. So in my opinion, that's the better deal. Because also, like, I'm not sure if this is true for the Trident Z Neos, but at least the RGB Trident Zs I have, the light bar is kind of washed out, in my opinion. Like, I don't like the saturation of the RGB on the G.Skill DIMMs, which, it's like, if you're going to make something colorful, like, make sure the color's actually good under, like, some amount of light. Like, they look fine in a dark room, but otherwise, they're kind of washed out, in my opinion. Now, you might not mind that. I do. Like, I actually, like, when it comes to like, I like colors, but my main problem with most RGB implementations is that they're lazy and washed out. And that's kind of been my experience with a couple Trident Z RGB memory sticks that I have. And when I say couple, I literally mean two. Anyway, but what's interesting with G.Skill is you do actually have some pretty decent 3600 CL16 options. Like this right here, which is 161616. So this is B-Die. Again, from a performance per dollar perspective, it's just like it's not going to beat a 3600 CL4. Like it's going to slot in between the 3600 1618 and 3600 1415 in terms of stock performance. And it is, like this is a $110 memory kit on Newegg right now, so it is significantly more expensive than a 3600 1618 Crucial Ballistics kit. But these are B-Die, so they do have a ton. Like, again, these make sense if you plan to overclock them. If you're not going to be overclocking them, they're kind of a bad purchasing decision because they're just not cost-effective if you don't overclock them. Then we get to 4000 CL18 G.Skill, and this, like, the thing is, this is all still very, like, good prices for Samsung B-Die memory chips. The problem with Samsung B-Die is, like, if you don't overclock, like, you're probably better off getting 3600 CL16 Crucial sticks instead of basically any speed bin of any decent speed bin of B-Die, because B-Die is just not very cheap. These are $115. These are 18, 19, 19, 39. So they should perform similarly to 4000, 18, 20, 20, 44. Which actually is a, somewhat decent performance. Like, it's going to perform even better than what I have here, because this is 18, 20, 20. And the TRCD is actually more important for overall performance than TCL, so, you should get a decent, not a huge uplift, but a decent uplift nonetheless. And so the performance difference between the 3600 CL16 and a 4000 CL18 kit is actually, that's when it starts being actually noticeable and significant. At the same time, this is, sort of starting to approach the, if you were buying it off of Amazon, this is literally twice the price of a set of these of the 3600 CL16 Crucial sticks. And that's where you have to consider that if you buy 2 sets of the Crucial memory, and you run them on a dual channel CPU, you're going to be running in dual rank mode. And if you have a quad channel CPU, then you're running in quad channel, which is even bigger performance gains than dual rank on the dual channel. But anyway, if you're on a, if you're on a Ryzen or a mainstream Intel CPU and your motherboard has 4 DIMM slots, and you stick 4 memory, and you stick 4 of these Crucial Ballistic sticks in there, you're going to end up in a dual rank configuration, which is just kind of going to wipe the floor with the 4000 CL18s. So these, if you're buying them for $115 and you don't plan to manually, even if you manually overclock them, you're probably not going to do, you can definitely catch up to this performance level. You might even be, actually, you should even be able to beat it. I have done over 600 gigaflops in LinPack on single rank memory configurations. It's just if you don't overclock these, it's not worth it. So this is, again, very much overclocking memory instead of performance per dollar memory. But you can also buy 2 sets of these for, you could still, where are they? You could still buy 2 sets of these memory sticks right here, right, and put those in dual rank. And then you'd be looking at that, which would give you very good stock memory performance, though admittedly you'd be looking at $230 worth of RAM. So, it's just it's one of those things that I would do once once you already kind of have the best of everything else, right? And well, the thing is, actually, not necessarily the best of everything else in that, you'd need a super expensive motherboard, because these days you can get very good memory overclocking motherboards for between $150 and $200. For both AMD and Intel, you can get very solid memory overclocking performance in that price range. So it's not like you would need a $500 motherboard before a memory kit like this makes sense, but yeah, it's definitely not the most cost-effective option from a performance per dollar perspective. But if you're looking for B-Die, B-Die has never been cheaper than this. Straight up, B-Die has never been cheaper than this. Because if we look at, say, this Trident kit, and look at this, these started at $200 at one point. So this is about as cheap as you're going to get Samsung B-Die. Wait, did the price oh no, this is $34.66. Clicked on the wrong kit. I'm an idiot. But the point's the same. So actually, these started out even more expensive. So this is about as cheap as you're going to get Samsung B-Die. And yeah, if you're going to overclock these, they're amazing value if you're looking for B-Die. But otherwise, at stock settings, they're really not great at stock settings. That's kind of the thing with a lot of the more expensive memory kits, is just they can offer really good memory overclocking headroom. And you can get some really impressive speed bins. Though I guess if you're going for absolute best XMP performance, something like this kit right here actually makes a decent amount of sense, because in my testing that is about as fast as you're going to get on a 4-DIMM motherboard for at least Intel systems. If you're on AMD, then going past 3600 megahertz is you're going to have to manually tune your FCLK. Not all CPUs do 1900 FCLK. FCLK tuning is annoying. So if you're looking for XMP performance with AMD systems, you're basically stuck here. But on Intel, if you're looking for XMP performance, 4266CL19 on a lot of motherboards actually works just fine without you having to do any without having to do any manual adjustments. But you do need to buy 2 of these kits. Like, you would need to buy 2 of these. You can't run one of them, because if you run one of them, there's a interesting timing issue on a lot of Intel motherboards will basically loosen out a bunch of subtimings to get 4266 to work. And in a single rank memory configuration, that actually costs you a bunch of performance compared to, say, a 4000 CL15 memory kit. And it basically puts you at the same performance as a 4000 CL18 memory kit. So, like, you could get the $115 sticks, and you'd get basically the same performance as the $130 sticks, which is just kind of like, again, yeah, RAM gets really fiddly once you consider all the details. Anyway, which I assume this is part of why when you see a lot of the various reviewers do like memory performance comparisons between like between various XMP memory kits, and they go from like 3200 CL14 all the way up to something like 4400, and then you see their benchmarks, and like the 4400 kits are not really performing that much better than the 3600 kits. It's probably because they end up with a bunch of subtiming issues that they're not aware of, where it's just like, well, yeah, that's going to completely, push your actual memory, like your memory performance is going to be pushed back down to lower speed, like into the range of lower speeds, because your subtimings are getting screwed up. And there's not really unless you manually tune your memory settings, there's no real way to work around that. So it's just like, yeah, it's fair. Past a certain past a certain point, you're not going to get more performance by raising the memory speed, because the high memory speeds have a bunch of sort of like potential issues in terms of running. So yeah, but right now, if you're looking to if you're into memory overclocking and you want to get yourself like aggressive bins of Samsung B-Die, like G.Skill currently has a lot of really great options, at least on Newegg, right? Like this 4266 CL19 bin, for a long time, this was a top bin for G.Skill. As of right now, they've introduced a bunch of even more aggressive bins, like, where is it? It's like a 32, well, you have 4000 CL15 at $160. Like, this is actually insane, in my opinion. Like, that you can get a 4000 CL15 kit for $160. This should be like one of the top Samsung B-Die bins that G.Skill currently makes. So yeah, if you're into memory overclocking and cost is not a concern, yeah, no, the thing is, like, even if the cost is not a concern, if you buy cheaper memory kits, you can just bin more of them. Right? Like, that's the thing, is just like, instead of buying one, buy 10. But anyway, yeah, so this is a really cool kit from a sort of like that. This has to be some really great B-Die at a really great price. Other than that, there should be a 3600. Well, oh yeah, 3600 CL15. Can't forget about this bin. Was a top bin for a very, very long time, and right now it's even just $140, which I think is, yeah, significantly cheaper than it used to be. So that's a solid option. Like, basically, yeah, there's a bunch of interesting options from G.Skill. They have a 4000 CL16 bin, which that's 1619. That's still B-Die. That's 1.4 volts. That's really interesting. But yeah, that's still going to be B-Die, even though the timings look like they might be CJR. The thing is, this is at such a high frequency that CJR doesn't do TRCD19 at 4000, or DJR for that matter. Like, neither of those is going to do 4000 at TRCD19 for $160. This, again, if you're into memory overclocking, this looks like a really good deal, considering, the settings that it comes with for the price that it comes at. What else do we have? Oh, there we have a 3600 CL14 bin, which is, about the limit of what you can get out of a Ryzen CPU on XMP. There should be a cheaper 3600 CL14 somewhere. Did I miss it? I guess I didn't. Okay, well, yeah, so 3600 CL14 is, like, if you're not interested in manually setting your FCLK, this is the limit of what you can do on an XMP profile for Ryzen. However, only if you're in dual rank, because in a single rank configuration, CL14 will just get absolutely demolished by dual rank 3600 CL16. And, well, you know, which basically means you buy 2 sets of this stuff for $75, so $150, and you're going to outperform this $174 memory kit while also having 32 gigs of RAM instead of 16 gigs of RAM. So, you know, like, if you do a lot of multitasking, which you might if you have a Ryzen system, having more RAM is good, right? You can open all the Chrome tabs, though I use Firefox. Anyway, so that kit right there is, again, like, it's another one of those kits, like, it's cool if you're an overclocker, it's not cool at stock. And I wonder if this is decent. This is 191919, 1.4 volts. So this is basically that 4266 kit, but in Bling edition, with a serious price tag uplift, where it's just like, yeah, I wouldn't pay $44 more for, I think it was, yeah, like this, right? Like, that's the same speed bin as this right here, but it's $170 something, which is just like, that's very silly in my opinion. They also have a version that's like 150, that's $50 more, which even sillier. Anyway, then you've got 4000 CL15 with RGB for $200 almost. You've also got a 4400 CL19. 4400 CL19, I just straight up wouldn't bother, right? Like, that's this row right here. And it's about the same performance as a 4000 CL15 kit. And also the 4000 CL15, I would actually assume is a better bin. The thing is, the 1.5 volt memory sticks actually have to be binned for should be binned for actual temperature tolerance, because once you start shoving memory 1.5 volts into B-Die, it starts getting temperature sensitive. And there's quite a few memory sticks that you do that and they start complaining if the temperature gets a little bit too high. And by a little bit too high, like, there's sticks that'll complain if they're at 1.5 volts and they go over like 50 degrees. So the high voltage, high speed memory sticks, like, they kind of need to be sorted out with the high voltage in mind, whereas some of the 1.35 volt kits, they're not necessarily going to tolerate the same kind of operating conditions that a 1.5 volt kit will. But at the same time, Samsung B-Die binning is super inconsistent. So even if you, like, it's not impossible to buy a 4000 CL15 kit and it's still not being absolutely incredible. It's just less likely that you're going to get a, you know, unimpressive 4000 CL15 kit compared to a unimpressive 3200 CL14 or a 3600 CL16 kit. So that's kind of something to keep in mind with that. And yeah, for G.Skill, I would basically stop at around the $200 price tag, because past this, we start getting kits where it's just like 4600 CL18, the XMP on that, there's very few motherboards that'll support that properly, that kind of speed. And then once you get up to like 4800 CL18, it's not just like you better have a really good motherboard, it's also, does your CPU tolerate that kind of frequency? Because, for example, my 10900K needs absolutely stupid amounts of system agent voltage to run 4800 megahertz. And it's just like, yeah, a lot of chips will not necessarily play well with memory speeds this high. And then also the motherboard compatibility starts being a serious issue as well. And I'm not sure that you would necessarily get significantly better memory chips on a 4800 CL18 kit than a 4000 CL15 kit. Like, theoretically, you should, because it is the highest bin G.Skill makes, and, you know, it's CL18, but if you look at the actual first word latency, that's about on par with a 4000 CL15 kit. That one's really overpriced, considering that you can get 4000 CL15 for, where is it? That one, right, for $160, but, though I will agree, like, the G.Skill, well, the Ripjaws 5 heatsinks are by far my least favorite G.Skill heatsinks. So I can totally, like, I would probably not get these. I would probably go, well, I'd probably get the Tridents, or, where's the, or these right here. Wait, no, those are CL16 again. Where's the other 15? These. There. I'd rather get these instead of the Ripjaws 5, so I can totally understand why the price tag is so low on those. Yeah. It's kind of that's the thing. It's like, also you could just buy a lot of these, 4000 CL15 kits and bin them yourself. Because the thing is, the first word latency on these is about the same, and they both run, I believe both of them are 1.8 volt kits, which we should check. I mean 1.5 volt kits, not 1.8. Yeah, they're both at 1.5 volts. And you'll notice that the TRCD on this is technically significantly looser than on the 4000 CL15 kit. But the thing with the TRCD is a lot of the time that timing gets loosened out for compatibility reasons rather than memory capability reasons. So 18, 22, 22 is just like, because 18, 18, 18 is really, really hard on your memory controller. Like 4800 CL18, 22, 22 is pretty hard on memory controllers, but 18, 18, 18 is way harder. Whereas something like 4015, 16, 16 is not as hard as 4800, 18, 22, 22 on the memory controller, just because it's at a significantly lower frequency. So the TRCD, like, I wouldn't expect these DIMMs to actually be weaker in terms of TRCD than a 4000 CL15 kit. It's just a case of, like, you can't, like, if G.Skill wants this to work with any number of, like, regularly available CPUs, yeah, you can't be shipping this at an 1818 bin because most chips won't boot it. Or, well, they'll boot it, but it will be very, very unstable. So, yeah, that's kind of the thing. Is like once you get into the high-speed kits, a lot of the timings are less about, is this the best for performance, and more about, like, will this even run? So that's kind of the thing to consider. And it's not like a will this even run from the perspective of the memory sticks. It's from will the CPU's memory controller tolerate our timings? So like Corsair has a kit where you have like CL17, but then the TRCD is like 22. And it's just like for compatibility reasons because the kit's clocked too high, and it's also, I think that kit specifically that I'm thinking of is a dual rank kit. So it's just like, and dual rank puts more load on the memory controller as well. So it's just like, yeah, you combine high speed with multiple memory ranks, and it's just like you can't run a low TRCD at that point. It's just not going to be stable as an XMP profile. So yeah, but G.Skill basically has a lot of interesting, $100 to $200 Samsung B-Die options. The main thing with their memory kits is I would watch out and avoid the various 3600, 1619, 19 kits. Like, I would just avoid these. But the 3600, 1616, that's going to be B-Die, 3200, 14, 14, 14, B-Die, 4000, 18, 19, 19, B-Die. This 37, 33, 17. So this is flat 17s, so that's also going to be B-Die. Basically, it's not so much about the timings being flat, it's mostly about the ratio of TRCD to memory clock. So if you take your memory clock and divide it by TRCD and it works out to be less than 200 or 200, it's almost certainly going to be Samsung B-Die because there's very few memory chips that can do a memory clock divided by TRCD equals 200 ratio. So what I mean by that is, like, for this kit, we take and I hope I'm right about this, divided by 17, and you get 219. So this has to be B-Die. If this was a 3600 with a TRCD 19, you get 189, and so that is not B-Die. That's going to be like CJR, DJR, Micron Rev E, all kinds of kits. And you might be like, wait a minute, but Crucial has 3600, 16, 18, 18 Micron Rev E, and yeah, Crucial are wizards. I don't know how they do it, but their sticks have really, really low TRCD, considering that the memory chips they're using are kind of not known for doing low TRCD, so they must be doing some kind of weird optimization to get the TRCD that low, because literally anybody else binning Crucial memory chips normally has much, much looser TRCDs than what Crucial bins to. Like, Crucial somehow has a 4400 CL, like, TRCD 19 kit in these. Like the 1946. Like, that's insane. That's absolutely ridiculous. Because if you look at similar Micron Rev E bins from, say, Corsair has those binned for like 1923 or 1926. And Crucial's here like, no, 4400, 19 TRCD. So, yeah, also, like, that kit's not particularly good performance per dollar. But if you're into memory overclocking, that should be very interesting to play with, just because, yeah, 19 TRCD on a Micron memory chip at that frequency is insane. Anyway, so that's the Crucial and the G.Skill kits done. Let's talk about Team Group. Team Group offers some more options for budget. You know, like if you're looking for B-Die on a budget, you've got more options here. Again, keep in mind that under most circumstances, dual rank 3600 CL16 just wins everything. But if you actually want to get into memory overclocking, B-Die is better. Though the thing is, you should get 2 sets, in my opinion. Because otherwise, you're just going to lose to basically any dual rank. Well, it depends on the platform. Some platforms have really bad dual rank support, but yeah, for day-to-day usage, dual rank is just massively overpowered, and if you're not overclocking, dual rank wins. So anyway, we have this right here, 3733 CL18. This has really loose timings, which makes it look like it would be Hynix something. But as far as I'm aware, this still has to be B-Die. I actually, like, one of the kits in my daily system is is this speed bin. It's not specifically this kit. Mine is silver. This is black. Doesn't really make a difference. It's just a color change on the heat spreader. Yeah, 3733 CL18, that is basically the cheapest B-Die you can get from Team Group. It has good overclocking headroom, and just the stock performance on this is going to be really, really not impressive, because that is not that fast, and that is really loose in terms of the timings. I'm surprised that they even keep this speed bin around. But they do have some more aggressive options. I've got a 4018 2020 bin, which... you know, that's this right here, which okay performance in single rank, but again, this is going to be like $120. It does come with RGB, I guess, which if you like the aesthetic, I'm not going to stop you. Yeah, these are not like aren't exactly what I would consider visually pleasing, but anyway, B-Die option for $120 with RGB. Then they also have a more visually pleasing option for about the same price, and then a alternative RGB option for about the same price. And these are all 4018 2020. They should all be B-Die, so, you know, B-Die overclocking capabilities are to be expected. Then we have Team Group's Dark Pros 3200 CL14s. What's interesting about these is Team Group has the TRAS really low compared to what most other manufacturers bin their 3200 CL14 to. I don't think it actually translates into... Like, TRAS doesn't really make too much of a difference in most benchmarks, especially when it's only 3 ticks of TRAS instead of, like, a lot of them. But it might mean that these might be slightly better on average than, like, most other 3200 CL14 kits. However, these are currently not the cheapest they've been, because the thing is, so these started out like most 3200 CL14 kits being relatively expensive. Then they got really cheap. People found then they got cheap. They got really popular, and now the price is coming back up. So congratulations, you need to stop buying these. the price is getting worse. But hey, if you don't want, if for some reason you don't want a 3200 CL14 G.Skill kit, you can get a 3200 CL14 Team Group kit for $30 more, which to me doesn't make sense, but you know, you might not have the G.Skill kits available wherever you are, and you might be able to find these. So if they're at a decent price, these can, you know, from like, again, it's B-Die. If you want to overclock B-Die memory sticks, these are certainly an option. Then we start getting into the more aggressive Team Group bins like 4133 181818, which I think with most Z490 motherboards, you will hit the loose IOL issue at that point. But if you just drop the frequency down to 4018, you should end up with performance somewhere between these two. Also, you know, it's B-Die, you're going to have a ton of overclocking headroom, and I should not have closed that tab. Anyway. Anyway, so these are sort of like a interesting speed bin if you're into overclocking memory, in my opinion. Again, XMP, like the thing is, like expensive B-Die kits don't make sense at XMP because they're all just going to lose to a dual rank 3600 CL16 configuration, which, yeah, like you need to overclock these. Otherwise, it's just pointless to spend this much money on 16 gigs of RAM. This right here, you might be like, oh, is that B-Die? Because it's 4000 CL18. It's not. It's 182222. I believe this is a relatively good kit of Hynix DJR. So if you're specifically looking for Hynix DJR, this could be interesting. From a performance per dollar perspective, this makes absolutely 0 sense. Okay, like this doesn't make sense. From a performance per dollar perspective, doesn't make sense. Though I will say I do like the heat spreaders on these. These are probably my favorite RGB heat spreader ever, mostly because you can actually change the color of like the entire memory stick can change color, which is just like, that's exactly what I wanted. Because the thing is, like, I don't want a black memory stick with a red highlight. I want a red memory stick or an orange memory stick. And so that's what I really like about these heat spreaders. But yeah, this specific kit right here is going to be DJR, and DJR is a lot like Micron Rev E in terms of performance, as in it clocks really high, it can do, but the timings are kind of loose, and so you're probably better off getting Samsung B-Die if you actually care about performance. But, you know, and also well, the funny thing is, like, the guaranteed DJR bins are generally not that cheap. From what I've noticed, is like you don't really get them for reasonable prices. So that's kind of annoying. Is just like, yeah, if you want a high speed DJR, it's just like you end up paying basically B-Die prices, which is just like, this is a bit silly from a performance per dollar perspective, but you don't really have a choice. Now this stuff right here is really interesting, and especially right now that it's $150. So for a very long time, the best memory sticks in my collection were XMP 4400 CL19. That is until Team Group sent along 2 sets of this memory right here, 3600 CL14, 100, where like these, well, they're not massively better, but they are better. So these are currently like the best sticks in my collection. And at $150, they're cheaper than the 3600 CL14 options from G.Skill. Again, I would like to point out that you're better, like, if you're not going to overclock them, you're better off getting, you know, 3600 CL16 Crucial sticks, because those are $72 a pair, and you get 4 of them, you're in dual rank, you're faster. But if you are into memory overclocking, this is one of, like, this should be a very consistent bin of Samsung B-Die, because I actually have 2 of these kits, and the difference between them is like 10 millivolts. And they're very different production batches as well. I have like a really, really early 3600 CL14, and then I have like a post-release 3600 CL14 kit. Like, I have a super early almost engineering sample kit. Like, I have a normal serial number on it, but it's super early, and then I have a much later serial number, and they're both very, very similar in terms of quality. In fact, the later kit is better. So these should be really interesting if you're into memory overclocking, and at $150, like, that is a really, really good price for a 3600 CL14 bin. I come at 1.45 volts. But again, like, they don't make sense as an XMP kit. This is the issue. Is just like, if you don't overclock the DIMMs, and you're gonna lose to a dual rank XMP on a single rank XMP kit. That's just kind of how that works. Anyway, then we've got 4000 CL18, which is just going to be, I'm assuming this is 1820. Yeah, this is just more B-Die options. Then you've got 300 CL18, which is just another interesting B-Die option at $150 if for some reason you don't think the 3600 CL14 is good enough, or you don't like the RGB heat sinks, because the ARGB, like, this kit right here, the 3600 CL14, does, like, it looks like this. So if you don't like the look, then, you know, this is an alternative. I'm not sure how the binning quality varies between them. And then, you know, Team Group's highest clocked kit is 4500 CL18 for $185. This is going to have major compatibility issues with most motherboards, as in, like, booting it is going to be kind of annoying. Also, from an XMP perspective, it doesn't make any sense, because it's gonna, well, at 4400 you start kind of you know, matching a 3600 CL16 dual rank kit, but at 40, and so actually 4500 1818 will have an advantage over 3600 CL16 dual rank, right? Because these are basically right on top of each other. That versus that, nope, this and this are basically right on top of each other in terms of performance. So if you clock the single rank kit 100 megahertz higher, drop the timings at is it 2? Now I can't remember. Well, it drops the cast latency 1 tick, and TRAS goes up a bit. So actually, so TRCD is a bit more important than cast latency most of the time. So that's going to be, not sure how that works out. At the same time, you have a clock speed advantage, so that should still win. So Okay, so now we finally get to a kit where it's like, okay, this should actually be faster than a 3600 CL16 dual rank setup. The thing is, it's also almost $200. So, and at 4500, like, there's not going to be that many motherboards that are going to run this without any complaints. Because a lot of the 4-DIMM motherboards, they start. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. If you run it on like a 4-DIMM Gigabyte board, that's going to be fine. But my 4-DIMM MSI motherboard very specifically starts complaining once you start going past, significantly past like 4400. So yeah, but the thing is, at the same time, well, no, because like your alternative to getting something like this from a performance perspective would be like 2 kits of B-Die and then manually overclocking it. And yeah, if you don't want to deal with manual overclocking, then this actually makes well, does it make sense? No, like this is an interesting option. I'm gonna let you decide for yourself if you want to, mess around with a kit this fast. Like this is definitely, this is not as silly as some of the other kits. Like this at XMP performance, this is not as silly as some of the other kits because like the XMP performance of a 4000 CL15, you're not going to beat a 3600 CL16 kit. But a 4500 CL18 kit, on the other hand, like this has so much clock speed that it's just going to offset the performance penalty of the looser timings, the lower number of memory ranks. At the same time, you do only end up having 16 gigs of RAM. So, if you want more memory capacity, this does leave you with an advantage. But this is like one of the few kits where it's just like, yeah, this actually kind of makes sense from a stock settings perspective. So I'm surprised. I'm really happy that I have this chart. This chart is awesome. Anyway, so yeah, Team Group has some interesting B-Die options. Though I think if you're going for overclocking, I would probably just go for the 3600 CL14 kits. Like this is a really good bin, and it's cheap. And yeah, I don't really see a reason to go really above that. Also, if you're in the UK, then you can actually get 3600 CL14 kits from Team Group for, I think, even less than this price, or about the same price, because again, we have VAT on everything here. Anyway, so that's the Team Group options, and then we get to Patriot, where Patriot basically, for a long, like the 4400 CL19 kits that were basically the best sticks in my collection, that's these. For a very long time, these were the best sticks I had, until, well, these came along. So, anyway, from an XMP perspective, these don't really make a ton of sense, right? I mean, yeah, they rival the 3600 CL16s, but you're also running 4400 megahertz. The compatibility, like, it doesn't work on Ryzen. The compatibility with a variety of Intel motherboards is going to be kind of a mess. And so the XMP on these doesn't make sense. But if you're into overclocking for $130, these are really, really cool. Though it looks like on Newegg, these used to be way cheaper at some point in time. Oh, no. So occasionally on Newegg, they were going for $115. So yeah, if you got them for $115, these are great. If you're buying them right now, this is kind of a little bit too much, in my opinion. But certainly an interesting kit. And then other than that, Patriot also has a 4000 CL19 bin, which is just flat 19s. So it should perform about the same as this right here. And, it's $110. So from, like, the thing is, it's going to have a ton of overclocking headroom. The XMP performance is not that bad, and it's still, like, the thing is, at least it's cheaper than, buying 2 sets of the Crucial Ballistics kits. Like, that's the thing, that it's, like, it's cheaper. It's not going to be that slow. So, yeah, this is actually an interesting option from an XMP perspective. On a lot of motherboards, like 4000 CL19 is not hard to run, unless you're on Ryzen, in which case FCLK screws you over, but yeah, so this is an interesting option for like XMP performance on Intel platforms. Hopefully Ryzen 5000 series has a memory, like AMD does something so that we can actually run DDR4 4000 kits, because yeah, but we'll see. Like we'll see when that launches. So that's kind of the noteworthy memory kits right now, is basically if you want performance per dollar, you go basically 3200 CL16 Crucials or 3600 CL16 Crucials. If you want more performance per dollar, you get 2 sets of the 3600 CL16 Crucial sticks. And then if you're into overclocking, you have a variety of options for relatively low cost Samsung B-Die from G.Skill and from Team Group and from Patriot. Well, Patriot doesn't really have a lot of options, but there are certainly B-Die kits. The thing is, I would have probably avoid this kit right here, which so far this has been B-Die, but it's 4133, 19, 21, 21, so it's like right on the edge of not being a B-Die bin. And I think there's a decent chance that Patriot will swap some memory chip into this as soon as they get a cheaper memory chip to use. Similar goes, and the Patriot Viper 4 blackouts are similar, where they're like 19, 21, 21, 41, where it's just like, this is really close to being DJR. Like, it's not quite there yet, because I'm pretty sure you need TRCD22, but like, maybe they'll be able to find some DJR that does this as an XMP, and it's just like, yeah, well, at $110, that wouldn't be the worst deal. But, you know, if you're expecting B-Die and then you get DJR, that's actually kind of a pretty major downgrade. And then I guess you also have this as a RGB B-Die option at 4133 CL19. It's worth noting with the 4400 Patriot Viper Steels, they come with a 4266 CL19 profile as well. So they have two XMP profiles on the sticks, which is supported by the XMP standard, and the second profile is 4266 CL19. So if you actually bought two sets of these for, you know, $260 or $300, depending on where you're buying it, you can run out of the box these settings right here, which in my testing was just straight up the best configuration that I ran, that I tested. So yeah, but you could also go for like G.Skill, you know, 4266 CL19 kits, and then in single rank 4266 CL19 doesn't make any sense, right? Like, it ends up being really, really slow because of the loose IOLs, and there's not enough memory ranks to compensate for that. So yeah, anyway, that's the memory kits. That's the 2x8 DDR4 memory kits that I currently find really interesting. I'm going to leave a list down in the description of every single part number that I covered in this video, which that list is going to be super long. And yeah, then you can go pick your own poison. I basically shared my thoughts on this, but if you're looking for performance per dollar, you should just stick to the crucial sticks. Unless you're looking to spend like $100 on your memory kit, because then the B-Die kits kind of make sense. But then, like, if you're looking to spend like $110 on your memory, then, you know, you're probably best off getting something like, well, like this, right? Like the 4000 CL19 Patriots, or 4000 CL18 G.Skill kits, right? If you're looking at around 110, but if you're looking at $150 and you don't plan to overclock, crucial, go crucial. Because these, just the XMP on these is just so, like, especially in dual rank, the XMP on these is just super fast. So yeah, that's it for the video. So thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, leave any comments, questions, suggestions down in the comment section below. If you'd like to support what I do here with actually hardcore overclocking, I have a Patreon. There's a link to that down in the description below. There's also the HOC Teespring store, where you can pick up shirts, stickers, posters, you know, the usual YouTuber merch. Both of those help out immensely with running the channel. So it would be much appreciated if you'd check them out. And that is it for the video. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.